Pleasure-driven art, the Rococo and its focus on romance and playful sensuality. The Rococo era, which constitutes the period of 18th century France, spanning from 1700 to 1775, is an artistic and literary period that came onto the scene after the death of King Louis XIV in 1715. Upon Louis's death, the regent Philippe would move the court from Versailles to Paris, which would contribute to the increased focus on the aristocracy within art as opposed to the monarchical focus that had characterized art prior. This meant that many nobles previously housed at Versailles moved back to their private hotels in Paris. As they sought to redecorate their salons, these aristocrats developed a taste for intimacy and sumptuous decorative details. The art they popularized was radically different in scale, form, and content from the art produced for the ceremonious grandeur of the apartments at Versailles. Although court would be moved back to Versailles in June of 1722, this new style of art would continue for most of the 18th century in France. The decadent lifestyle depicted within Rococo art would eventually lead to the destruction of the monarchy in 1792. At the essence of the spirit of the Rococo is art as pleasure, filled with subject matter involving romantic relations and idealized faits galants painted in pastel hues. The main objective of Rococo art was to reflect the frivolous beauty of the daily lives of the 18th century French aristocracy. These aristocrats concerned themselves with social relations and simple pleasures, and as Madame du Châtelet, Voltaire's mistress, once said, "One must begin by saying to oneself that in this world we have nothing else to do but to procure ourselves sensations and agreeable sentiments." This was the mindset of the French aristocracy of the 18th century, which can be seen when analyzing their art. Jean-Honoré Fragonard's The Progress of Love is a 4-panel oil-on-canvas painting that was created sometime between 1771 and 1773 and captures essential elements of Rococo style, though it was created towards the end of the period. It was intended to decorate a room in Madame du Barry's newly built pleasure pavilion at Louveciennes. The placement of these 4-panel paintings was ultimately short-lived when Madame du Barry returned the works to Fragonard and commissioned replacements from Joseph-Marie Vienne. Madame du Barry was the mistress of the aging Louis XV, and it is considered a possibility that her rejection of the pieces had something to do with her likeness to the main female figure and Louis's likeness to the main male figure. It has been assumed by art historians that there is a narrative sequence to the 4 panels, which would make sense when considering the title, The Progress of Love. It is, however, uncertain in which order the panels should be placed, though the general consensus places the panels in the order as follows from 1 to 4. Due to the dimensions of the Salon École des Forts at Louveciennes for which the panels were created, it is evident that this order is most likely the correct order. These 4-panel paintings are dense with iconographic motifs and meaningful details, which adds to the challenge of interpreting the organization of these panels correctly. The proposed first panel, The Pursuit, reflects the lightheartedness of French aristocratic flirtations within the 18th century. Quite appropriately, as stated by Remy G. Cesselin in discussing the period of the Rococo, he states, "Love has ceased to be tragic to become an amusing and piquant pursuit." This panel encapsulates not only the artistic style of the Rococo with its airy brushwork and pastel tones, but it exhibits the overall sentiment of the Rococo era. The boy seems to offer the girl a flower as she playfully hesitates his advances. It seems to take place in a garden, which would be typical of Rococo art, such as seen within Fragonard's famed The Swing. These garden scenes that depicted the wealthy enjoying their time outdoors, engaging in leisurely activities, were a hallmark of Rococo subject matter. There is significant speculation that this panel, The Meeting, is actually the first panel of the series due to the girl's surprised and what appears to be a taken-back reaction. There is merit for this theory when analyzing the iconography present within the painting. The presence of the statue of Venus withholding the arrows from Cupid may indicate that the boy's love has not yet been accepted by the girl. The Lover's Crown was originally thought to be the final panel in the series and is still considered by some to be, due to its seeming ability to provide a happy and romantic ending. The lovers crown one another in marriage, and the statue of Cupid falling asleep attests to his accomplishment with the lovers uniting and his ability to now rest. Love Letters, which is generally accepted to be the last panel in the series, is dominated by a sculptural group that is identifiable as love and friendship. Details such as the dog, which typically represent loyalty within art, support this theme. With the identification of this panel as the last in the series comes a very different meaning and possible conclusion to the overall narrative relayed throughout the work. A moral tale, in which it is exhibited that friendship will outlive romantic love, could be a possible interpretation. Originally, it had been believed that the lover crown should be placed last, but due to the dimensions of the salon, it is unlikely that this is the case. The final panel, being love letters, creates new meaning and depth to what seems like a purely lighthearted and whimsical narrative of love. Criticism, made solely on objective grounds, has been made by Catherine Gordon. She has shown that the iconography of friendship was developed around the middle of the 18th century to meet the needs of Madame de Pompadour and that it remained closely associated with her. La Pompadour, whose health, it seems, about 1750 prevented her from continuing a physical relationship with Louis, had good reason to hope that friendship is better than love. Gordon rightly doubted that Du Barry would have chosen for her pavilion a theme that could only recall and advertise the virtues of her predecessor. However, speculation lives on. There is an element of fantasy to all four panels, an element that would anger the poor and exhibit the aristocracy's detachment from reality. While there are many theories regarding the order of these panels, some more convincing than others, it is evident that Fragonard intended to create a narrative that is perhaps richer than what may originally meet the viewer's eye. While essentially Rococo, this four-panel painting exhibits details, iconography, and allegories that give it deeper meaning.